Everyone, once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We're at the doors of this most incredible parable in the Quran. Allah is the light of the skies and the earth, where we talked about the outside light and the divine light, and what its meanings can be, including like the sun, for example, the heavenly bodies and all of that Allah has illuminated that we could never have had the ability to illuminate. But then from there, there's an immediate transition to the light that exists inside every human being, and particularly inside of the believer. And Allah used مَثَلُ نُورِهِ as the introduction to it. You don't see مثل in the opening. You don't say مَثَلُ نُورِ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ نُورِ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. That's not how you see the intro. You just see Allahu نُورُ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. But then there's a degree of separation made. مَثَلُ نُورِهِ كَمِشْكَاتٍ. As if to say that human beings inside of us, we have the ruh. And Allah says about the ruh something special. وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. It's a special amr of Allah. Allah blew of His own ruh into us. Right? So there's special language used for the ruh. And then فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. There's something really truly special about the ruh, that all the angels were commanded to do sajda. So human beings have been given something that reflects in some way the attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Azza wa Jal, He Himself is Ar-Rahman, and the ruh He put inside of us has some desire for rahmah. Allah is Al-Hadi, the guide, and He put inside every human soul the desire to seek guidance. He's Al-Hakim, we seek wisdom. He's Al-Khaliq, we want to create things, we want to engineer things, we want to build things. He's Badi'u Samawati wal-Ard, the unique, creative initiator of the skies and the earth, and we want to invent new things. We don't want to just be satisfied with what's already been created. We want to invent and rediscover. So, in a sense, like Imam Ghazali alludes to this idea that the ruh that Allah put inside of us, right? Every name of Allah has something to do with what the ruh is inspired with. Every name of Allah. Allah's name is Al-Adl. The human soul is drawn towards justice. That Allah's name is justice, and we seek justice. We are drawn towards justice, right? And so we have every name of Allah in some way impacts the human soul naturally. We have this reflection, not a part of the divine, a reflection of divine attributes. A reflection of divine attributes. And what an amazing thing to say that Allah is the light of the skies and the earth, and a likeness of that light exists. Something like that light, something like it exists. And the example of it is a niche in a wall. Now a niche, I know Texas homes have them, but when I used to live in the East Coast, they didn't have them. But basically in old homes, you didn't have electricity, so you didn't have light bulbs and can lights and things like that, or chandeliers. So the way people would light up their home is either they hang a lamp from the ceiling, they make a hook and they hang a lamp and it's hanging in the middle, or they put some kind of lamp in the middle on the table or something like that, or they have a fireplace. Or, if you really want to be safe and careful, you make a curved window into the wall without actually being a window. It's just wall, but it's curved and it looks like an arch. And it's like a dent inside the wall. And you put the lamp in it, and the light hits the wall and it spreads all over the room. That's called a mishkah. The mishkah, that's the term for mishkah. We call it a niche in a wall, right? So that's done, and they do this, I know in Texan homes they do this as a decorative thing. People don't really use it for that purpose anymore. They just put a flower vase there or something now, right? For no purpose. It's like a doohickey to put there. Or it's where you keep your keys, right? But in the old times, this was used to spread light inside of a house, right? Allah is going to basically describe the human heart, our heart, using this parable. And you notice that our rib cage is shaped like the niche of a wall. And inside that niche, inside this rib cage is the heart, right? And inside that niche, it's a lamp. So Allah is saying that the light of Allah that lights the skies and the earth, some kind of closeness to that light, in some way, some resemblance to that light, exists inside this niche in a wall. Kamishkatin. So before we go any further, we're going to focus our attention on this niche. And how is Allah describing that? This divine gift that Allah has given every human being that's inside of us. You can think of easily 4 ways that a niche benefits. The first way is that it saves you space. If there's a lamp hanging from the ceiling, you can run into it. It's an obstacle, you have to work around it. But if it's in the wall, tucked away, the light is coming without it getting in the way of anything. And that's also beneficial because the believer's light, the light of Iman, when a believer has that light inside of him, he's not creating or she's not creating obstacles for people. The light they have to share, the message they have to share, the goodness they have to share, can just be shared without them creating interruptions or creating annoyances or creating even danger for others or disruption for others. There's a gentleness in the way that a believer spreads light, just like there's a gentleness in the way in which the niche spreads light without creating an interruption. It doesn't impose itself. Then the idea of a niche, because it's a curve, right? And a curve has a certain direction. So if the niche is angled at a certain way, the light will focus in this direction. If a niche is angled in this way, you put the lamp there, the light is focused in that direction. So some parts of the room get less light, and the parts of the room that are in the focus of the niche are going to get more light. If you put a lamp in the middle of the room, then the light is going to go in every direction. But if you put a lamp in the niche, then the light is going to go in a particular direction more than other directions. Which is something to learn from also, because then the believer is focused on certain things. There's more light. The more light there is on something, the more it's visible. The more it's visible, the more you can think about it, the more you're aware of it. If something's in the dark, you're not even thinking about it. It's not even in your consciousness. You're driving on the road, it's pitch black, you only see a tree. What's your focus on? The tree. If it's not on your sight, it's not in your vision, you can't think about it. It's not part of your thought process. So what does that teach us about ourselves? The believer, and when they have Allah's light inside them, they don't pay equal attention to everything. There are some things that deserve more light, more attention than others. And some things are left in the dark for good reason. Right? So there are things, for example, Allah says in Surah An-Nisa, He says, إِن تَجْتَنِبُوا كَبَائِرَ مَا تُنْهَوْنَ عَنْهُ نُكَفِّرْ عَنْكُمْ سَيِّئَاتِكُمْ وَنُدْخِلْكُمْ مُدْخَلًا كَرِيمًا. If you can stay away from major sins, then we will bury away from you for your other sins. So there's, for example, earning haram money or stealing inheritance, or, there's big sins. And then there is, hey, you entered the bathroom with the right foot. Or it's not the best thing to do. Or you ate some food, you didn't say Bismillah, you forgot to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Right? And now imagine someone who's really, hey, you didn't say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And you're just checking everybody at the table. Did you say it? Did you say it? Did you say it? Did you? And that same guy is not paying attention to inheritance that he just stole from his brother. Right? But everybody, Bismillah. Bismillah from the haram money I just made from my brother and bought the halal chicken with, right? So what happens? With the light focused in the right direction, the things that deserve priority and focus, you're able to prioritize and shed light on those things as opposed to other things. Also, this means even more, not just within the religion, but beyond the religion. There are priorities in life. Every one of us is in a family and in our family and friends. And when family and friends exist, then so do all kinds of conflicts. And some conflicts are so petty and so pathetic and so meaningless, but they take up so much of the space in your brain and so much of your energy and so much conversation. You know what they said? You know where they went? You know what they did? You know they didn't invite this one? You know they called that one? And you're just, so much of your time and energy, you're shedding the light on the wrong thing. You understand? Some things you could just keep in the dark, the faults of others, the petty mistakes of others, and you can focus on more important things. So this mishkat, the fact that it directs in the right direction, is also a pretty powerful indication in the Quran. Allah didn't begin by describing the lamp. Allah began by describing the mishkat. And Allah could have said, مَثَلُ نُورِهِ مِصْبَاحٌ فِي مِشْكَاتٍ. The example of His light is a lamp in a niche. But He said, مَثَلُ نُورِهِ كَمِشْكَاتٍ, and then فِيهَا misbah. So he did a taqdeem of the mishkat. He emphasized the mishkat early to say, this is important, I need you to pay attention to this and what you can learn from it. So one, we learned it doesn't get in others' ways. The second thing we learned, it provides a particular kind of focus. When someone has the light of Allah, then they're focused on certain things, and therefore they are not focused on other things. They're not focused on other things, they have a sense of priority. The third is that it actually creates what's called ambient lighting. If you're into interior design, I'm very much into interior design. There are, for example, you can put, if you're in your bedroom and you're going to sleep and the lights are on, and you put like high lumen, 4,000 lumen lights right on top of your head, like surgery lights, right? And the lights are on, they're just beaming into your eyes. It's not a pleasant experience. Actually, if you go to really well, nicely designed homes, for instance, they'll have an extra perforated ceiling, and they'll put lights that are pointing up into the ceiling, and the light is bouncing off of the ceiling and coming into the room, creating softer light. That's ambient light, right? So it's not direct light, it's indirect light, and it creates a softer, more gentle environment in the room. The niche, what does it do? The majority of the light is hitting the wall, and then from the wall it's coming to everywhere else. If the light was in the center of the room, it's wherever you go, it's hitting you. But it's off to the side, and then it's creating this ambient, soft, gentle light, which is like the light of a believer, because a believer is not harsh in the way that they spread their light. Right? Because if you imagine somebody who has like those super powerful torch lights that you can take now into the woods and you can see like 300 miles into the distance, right? Now those we all drive. If somebody has their high beams on, how annoying is it if they have their high beams on? You understand? So if you have the haqq, which is light, and you just stick it in somebody's face, well, there's going to be one of three. One, at least they're annoyed. At least they're annoyed. Two, they're not going to be able to see properly because the light is too intense. And three, they're probably going to turn around and say, I don't want to look at this, man. I'm not coming back here again. Turn that off. In other words, here you are thinking you're giving them light, but you're actually turning them away from light. In fact, too much intense light can even be blinding. You had the opposite effect of giving them light. You actually put them in darkness. Overexposure to light can actually be blinding. يَكَادُ الْبَرْقُ يَخْطَفُ أَبْصَارَهُم. It could be that the lightning blinds their eyes, snatches their eyesight. Right? So the ambient light is also an imagery for the believer. When they spread the goodness that they have inside them, they don't spread them in the kind of intensity that blinds someone, that squints someone, that makes someone turn away, but actually they can feel the warmth and the comfort of the light that they're experiencing. So that's actually really quite powerful. Something else about the first thing I mentioned, or the second thing, the targeted light, is that you just imagine yourself, you walked into the room at night and you see that certain things are lit up. And you also notice that certain things are not lit up. You didn't even see the lamp. You didn't even see the niche. And you're like, why is this bright and that side isn't bright? And you kind of start following the light and there's a lamp over there and it's pointing in this direction. That's why this stuff is lit and that stuff isn't lit. A believer is focused on certain things and they're unconcerned about other things, right? Their light is focused on some things and not on other things. And other people notice, hey man, I notice you're never talking about petty politics. And you're never talking about, the flaws of your friends. And you're never talking about these meaningless things. And you're never indulging in lahu, what the Quran calls lahu, meaningless, useless conversation. You're always focused on meaningful things, purposeful things, kindness things, gentle things. Why are you like that? Like, you see the light, it's focused on certain things, and you want to know where that came from. You want to work backwards. And you say, there's a lamp there. So a believer, just the way they carry themselves and what they're focused on becomes so different from everybody else that they become curious. Hey, how come you're focused on that? There must be a lamp inside you. And they make them curious about the iman itself, right? So that's really quite beautiful. Then finally, the niche is actually also a security mechanism, because lamps in the ancient world were fire. There's an oil, as we will see, there's oil and it's lit. And if it's hanging in the middle of the house and somebody accidentally bumps into it, what's going to happen? It's going to fall, it's going to smash, and the fire is going to spread on the rug or the furniture, and the house is going to burn down. This thing is beautiful, but it's also quite dangerous. If not handled properly, it's dangerous. What did Allah do with this niche? He described it as something placed in a secure area where it's not used for any other purpose but to secure this thing out of the way of any other obstacles. Out of the reach of children, for example. Out of the reach of other utensils. You're not reaching into the niche for anything else, so you accidentally knock it over. And the heart of a believer has to be protected. And Allah protected it. It's remarkable. One of the great creations of Allah, the human being, and the way the human being has been created, and the way our bones have been created, our skeleton has been created. You notice the two strongest organs, the two organs that have been protected more than anything else by the bones, are the heart and the mind. The skull is the strongest bones in the body. And so is the rib cage. It's like this entire security system just to protect the heart. The private parts of a human being don't have any security system. The nose, which we need to breathe, is very exposed. The ears are very exposed. The eyes are fairly exposed. The mouth is exposed. But the heart and the mind are kept in these security vaults, right? And extra layers of security around, and quite literally a niche around the heart to protect it. And this is actually a beautiful indication of how Allah is saying, Allah gave you something worthy of protection. And when you don't protect it, you will create fires all around. When a heart becomes corrupt, when that lamp is getting used for the wrong thing or being placed in the wrong place, then what happens to the world? What happens to that family? What happens to that person's surroundings? They set themselves and everybody around them on fire. They create fasad, right? So just from the niche itself, we learn so much. So مَثَلُ نُورِهِ كَمِشْكَاتٍ, and then from there we go to فِيهَا مِصْبَاح, in which there is a lamp. Now we focus on the lamp. That was the niche, now we focus on the lamp. The word for the lamp here is misbah. Misbah is an ism ala, mif'al, coming from the word subh. Subh means morning. Misbah literally, linguistically means a tool to simulate the morning. A tool to simulate the morning. The morning generator is called a misbah. Okay? So what is a lamp then from a linguistic perspective? It's trying to do what the morning had done with the sun. The sun isn't there, so we're going to make an artificial mini little sun with this misbah, the artificial morning, a human attempt at the morning. This is also really powerful because it's as if Allah is saying that when Allah brings His light in the morning, everything gets illuminated. But even when Allah removes that light and night comes, Allah gave every human being something that can generate a reflection of that morning. Everyone was given a lamp where we weren't left in total darkness. Fiha misbah. In it there's a lamp. And that lamp wants to be like the morning because its name is defined with the morning. It's as if this nur is defined with nuru samawati wal ard, right? Just like the light inside of us is defined. Where is it getting this light from? It's getting it from the heavenly source, from Allah Himself, who is Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. So there's this beautiful connection even in the way that Allah describes this lamp. But then we take a couple of other steps with this lamp. The light that Allah creates, we had no effort in creating it. Allah raises the morning sun and the light is there. The moon is there, it reflects Allah's light. The stars are there that give light. But when we have a lamp, it's designed by human beings and it's made with human effort. Human beings have to carve out the niche. Human beings have to make the oil for the lamp and the wicker, the string that goes into the oil, and they have to generate a fire from somewhere and to light it up. So the lamp won't work until human beings actually first of all, designed it and light it up, right? It's as if Allah is saying the light inside of you is like a lamp, but a lamp is no good until you make the work to put in the fuel and light it up and put it to use. So human beings, we don't say all human beings are good. We say all human beings are potentially good. Just like a lamp has light, but it actually has potential light. If you never put oil in it, if you never put a string in it, and you never lit a fire in it, you're never going to see any light. It's never going to happen, right? So it could be that every human being was endowed with goodness, but they decided never to light it up. They decided never to do that. Even though Allah put a ruh in everyone, goodness in everyone, light in everyone, not everyone took advantage of it. If you think about now let's take another step. If you think of other man-made resources for light in the ancient world, you could have a candle, that's also man-made, like the lamp. You could have a fire, like wood, whatever, you set it on fire, or coal, or something like that, and you can have yourself a fire. Then how is a lamp different from these two other kinds of man-made lights? Well, first of all, and most importantly actually, both of those eventually run out. And they cannot be regenerated, you have to create a new one. The candle, the wax goes out, you need a new candle. The firewood burns out, turns into ash, you need new fire altogether. A lamp you don't need a new lamp. You just constantly refuel it and clean up the glass, and you can keep reusing it and regenerating it and regenerating it. The light of the believer is something that needs continuous maintenance. And even if the lamp used to work, and then you stopped using it and it stopped working. Well, if somebody found an old lamp that hasn't been used for 50 years, is it possible that they can clean it up, put fresh oil in it, put a fresh wicker in it, and light it up again? Is that possible? Yeah, it's actually possible. In other words, even when a believer loses their light, they lose their way, they fall into darkness, they slip up, there is still hope for them to redeem themselves and rejuvenate themselves. You understand? So the idea that Allah described the human heart as a lamp is actually filled with a lot of hope for us. Because if we are in fact a lamp, lamps can have good days and bad days, the glass can be dirty some days, the oil can be impure some days, the wicker may not work some days, the light never got fired up some days, but you can get it back on track. You can fix it, you can tune it up. So that's the other component of light. Now, filling a vessel, because light won't work, a lamp won't work until you fill a vessel. And by the way, because there's lots of modern audience, all of us are modern audiences, we're not talking about the lamp you have at home where you do, and then there's a bulb inside and you tune this. We're not talking about that lamp. We're talking about the ancient lamp. And the ancient lamp is basically multiple little pieces. It's a lantern, you can hold it, right? It's got a glass top, and inside there's a string, like a wicker rope type thing, and it dips into oil, and you light the top of it, and the oil gets sucked into the rope, because you soak the rope itself, but the top of it gets set on fire, and the fire keeps pulling on the oil and keeps ablaze, right? And so all you need is eventually to put new oil in, and it will keep on rejuvenating and keep on filling up. This is the misbah. This is the basic mechanism of the misbah, okay? So just because you fill it up with oil doesn't mean that you lit it up. Even if it's clean and it's filled with oil, it doesn't mean that it's lit. A modern example would be, even though the lamp is plugged in, doesn't mean you switched it on. There's a different piece. And it could be that a human being is filled with knowledge, good knowledge, like a lamp is filled with good oil. But they never really connected that knowledge to their heart, and they never really illuminated themselves with that knowledge, right? So learning alone is not enough for the light to be lit up. It's actually pretty amazing that you have this amazing, pure, pristine oil. It wants to be lit up, but on its own, it's not enough. There needs to be an additional spark for that to be lit up. And that spark has to come from outside. It has to come from another source. The source is not the lamp itself. An external source has to come, and we'll discuss that external source. But to put that in what does that mean for us? It means I can learn a lot about Islam. I can learn about the Quran. I can learn about Islam. I can learn about the Prophet ﷺ. And I can fill my brain with lots and lots of data about Arabic, and about history, and about seerah, and about hadith, and about Quran, and about tafsir. And I can do that. But if Allah does not light that, put His light on it in the end, then that knowledge is just sitting there like مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ حُمِّلُوا التَّوْرَاةَ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَحْمِلُوهَا كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. The example of those who were given the burden of the Torah and they didn't carry it the way they were supposed to is like donkeys that are carrying loads of books on their back. We can have this knowledge and it never illuminated. May Allah protect us from becoming that. But that is a threat that exists. That in our hearts there can be so much knowledge and it never translates into anything meaningful. But anyway, so that's a little bit about the misbah. Now Allah goes further and says, Al-misbahu fi zujaja. That lamp is inside of a glass. It's inside a glass. Now, why mention glass? Because, well, first and foremost, not just any breeze can blow out this light, because it's protected by glass. What's the purpose of glass also? Well, not only does it protect the flame, it contains the oil. You can keep track of how low you are. So there's actually, if it was not glass, if it was any other kind of material, right, you wouldn't know how much oil is left. So you can't keep track of whether you need to refuel or not, right? Also, if it wasn't glass, then the light would remain inside and it would never spread. And when it spreads, what does it spread to? Whichever direction it was pointed in. Now there are those who have light, but they like to keep it to themselves. Right? I don't want to talk to anybody in my family. All of them are liberal, progressive, munafiqun, and so I just want to stay away from the fitna, so I just want to keep my light to myself. I just want to go to my little halaqah where all the people have more iman than I do. I just want to protect my iman. I just want to just go home and then put my eyes down and go to the masjid and then go back home and go to the masjid and come back home. And if anybody from the outside, from the grocery store, if somebody says howdy, astaghfirullah al-azim, because my light might get disturbed if I look up. I barely look up when I'm driving. I'm a hazard on the road, right? So, for the sake of Allah, right? So, the idea is when a believer has light, then the reason it's encapsulated in glass, one, it's protected. It's protected. But it's protected for its own good, not so it can stay within itself. So even though it's not influenced by the outside, it is influencing the outside. Right? So we're engaged with the outside. We're giving light to you, especially inside of a home. It's the closest people to you. The closest people to you are the ones that will have the most influence on you, right? And it's as if Allah is saying, you're surrounded by this environment, this dark environment where the only source of light is this lamp. And instead of the lamp being darkened by the outside is being illuminated by the lamp. It's the other way around. So the believer learns that they are actually an impact on their environment. They are not a product of their environment. They are not a recipient of their environment. They are a contributor to their environment, right? And by the way, a lamp only makes sense at nighttime, right? So a believer's iman truly only reflects when they are surrounded not by light, but when they are surrounded by darkness. So the fact that you might be surrounded by friends that are in darkness, a campus that's in darkness, an office that's in darkness, a business that's in darkness, family members that are in darkness, congratulations, you get to use a lamp. And you get to use it softly, like we already described. So much wisdom inside just a few words, right? Al-misbahu fi zujaja. Then the other thing about a glass is that a glass gets dirty very quickly without anyone actually pouring any dirt on it. It collects dirt. The oil can start becoming grimy and make waxy film on top of the glass. And the dirtier the glass gets, the light will still come out, but the light will be muddied. It's not the light that was intended by the glass, right? Or by the lamp. So even though the light might be pure, what is reaching people is impure. So even if I am not working on cleaning my glass, then even if I'm giving people, I might be giving people contaminated light, corrupted light, refracted light, not pure light. And the purpose of the lamp, the glass also, is that it actually helps spread the light further. It exaggerates the effort, the impact of the light. So Allah has given us, inside of us, an ability not just to share what we have, but He's endowed that in a way that if we have sincere words to share, sincere goodness, sincere guidance to share with others, based on our own sincere light, that Allah will enhance it in a way that we couldn't do ourselves. That's by design, the glass. But we just got to make sure that that glass remains clean. The sins of a believer were described as a stain on the heart, like a stain on the glass. By the way, glass is delicate, yes or no? But it's being protected by keeping it in a niche. A niche. So even though it is now, in a sense, serving the home by giving it light, it also needs to be served by making sure it remains clean. The more valuable your assets are, like in a business, for example, you can have a chemist who is he's designing your patented product, right? So because of that one chemist, the company is making hundreds of millions of dollars. But he's also their single point of failure. So they have to have a lot of extra security around that chemist. They have to make sure that that chemist remains healthy, happy, doesn't go and work in another company, etc., 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 because he's their single point of failure. So your greatest asset can also become your greatest liability, right? So the delicate nature of the glass is also important to notice. It's not lost upon me that this parable is spiritual. This parable is spiritual. And all around it in this surah, the conversation is legal. So the Surah An-Nur is about the legal, and in the center of it there is the spiritual. And what's interesting about that is Judaism, before Islam, the Sharia given to Musa alayhi salam, what people did with the Sharia of Musa alayhi salam is they made it entirely legal, focused on the legal. And in doing so, Allah describes their hearts became hard. Eventually came the Injil to cover the gap that was created by only legal and no spiritual. And so through Isa alayhi salam, Allah introduced the spiritual core of the religion to them again. So Isa alayhi salam was given Torah and Injil. Right? So the heart was, and that's why Christianity was even now, after all of its changes, it's still a spiritual message. So where Judaism became highly legal, Christianity became highly spiritual. What did Allah do in this surah? He surrounded it with the legal, and in the heart of it, He put the spiritual. And the spiritual religion before this, known around the world, the spiritual religion was Christianity. And in Christianity, they believed that man fell from heaven. Right? He ate from the forbidden tree, he fell from heaven, and the image of God broke like a shattered glass. I'm bringing this up for a reason. The image of God broke like a glass shatters. And now human beings can never redeem themselves because the glass is what? Broken. And now the only one who can redeem this situation is the Redeemer. Therefore, Jesus had to come and sacrifice Himself to redeem the broken glass that is the human being. Human beings cannot fix what they broke. Allah is describing this heart, which is also glass, but beautifully, He put the glass in a niche and it's protected. Right? And it's almost like in a very subtle way Allah is saying that this religion isn't just legal, it's also spiritual, but it's a very different spirituality than the spirituality of the Christians, because our glass is not broken. It can get dirty and you can clean it again. And it can get dirty again and you can clean it again and you can redeem yourself. You're not beyond redemption. You don't need somebody else, some other creation to come and redeem you. You can make tawbah and you can redeem yourself. You can clean yourself, subhanallah. And so He took the essence of Judaism and the essence of Christianity and the balance between the two of them. I'm getting ahead of myself. La sharqiyatin wa la gharbiyya. Neither Eastern nor Western. He put it right in this surah, in the heart of this surah. It's actually mind-blowing what He did here. It's absolutely profound. So He says, now Allah Azza wa Jalla says, the lamp is in a glass. Now describing the glass. Az-zujajatu ka'annaha kawkabun durri. The glass is like a brilliant star in the sky. We don't see the stars. I tried tonight because after I was studying these ayat, I was like, let me go look at the stars. I see nothing, right? The thing is, the Arabs did not have lit up cities, and they didn't have the layers of pollution and the damage to the ozone or whatever else. When you went out to the desert and you looked up, there is not a place in the sky where you didn't see an entire collage of stars. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. We see only the most brilliant stars survive all the pollution and we see them. But actually the stars in the sky are actually overwhelming in a clear night sky. There are some places in Texas I plan to go. One of the photographers told me there's a place from about 2.5 hours from me. I forgot the name. It's photographers go there in a particular season for stargazing. It's one of the best places to look at the stars in the United States and in the world. Photographers fly in from all over the world just to take a look at the stars over here in the open sky, pitch black dark. But the Arabs saw that every night. In fact, they paid so much attention to the stars. I talked about this in Surah An-Najm. They named the stars, they made poetry about the stars. Some stars only show up in one season. So one guy that only comes once in a year to visit, they say, "You're like that star, man." Right? So they would make puns with the stars. They were really connected to the stars. Now, if you see these millions of stars in the sky, some of them really stick out more than others. The ones that used to stick out, they used to call them kawakib durriya. This was a particular attribute they used, kawkabun durri, pearly stars, pearly heavenly bodies. For the ones that even though there's millions of stars, some of them are just far more shiny than the others, like pearls sticking out. Allah says, this glass is like a shiny pearl, shiny pearly heavenly star. Isn't He connecting this lamp to the sky? First of all, it's shiny, that's great, but He made a reference to the sky. Because this lamp and this heart of a believer is actually containing something inside it that didn't come from this earth. It came from Allah. Ar-ruhu min amri rabbi. It was delivered by the angels into the belly of the mother, the ruh. And that ruh used to be in the company of Allah. What's even more amazing is the stars. Every star we see in the sky is actually light that reached us millions of years later, sometimes billions of years later. Right? So we're looking at billions of years of history. The ruh that Allah created of you and me, that came into our mothers. We were born on a certain date. That ruh is older than the stars. It's older than even the stars. It's trillions of years old. I mean, our souls are ancient, that were then delivered from the heavens into our bodies. So there's this connection between the sky and the earth that's being made. I am an earthly being, but there's something heavenly inside me. There's something from the skies inside me. Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi at this moment said something really beautiful. It's stuck in my head for years about this ayah. He said, أهل السماء ينظرون إلى الأرض المتلألئة وأهل الأرض ينظرون إلى السماء المتلألئة. He said, people living in the world are looking up at the sky and they're seeing these beautiful stars. And the angels in the heavens are looking down on the earth. Like when you're landing from a plane and you see lights in homes at nighttime? Instead of that, imagine the angels from above can see which houses have the light of Iman, and they can see lights light up on the dark earth like we see the stars light up in the sky. SubhanAllah. Like they're looking, just like we have this view of the pitch black and some dots of light, they're looking down on the earth, pitch black, and some dots of the light of Iman in different homes, like lamps lit up. SubhanAllah. كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة. Now this tree, this a beautiful lamp, in the glass being so brilliant and starry, is being fueled. يوقد. Now it could have been وقد. It was fueled. Or موقود. It's already been fueled. يوقد means it keeps on getting fueled. What does that tell us? That a believer has to keep on refueling their heart. It was given a certain endowment, but it needs to be refueled and refueled and refueled. What is it refueled with? He says, min shajaratin mubarakatin zaytuna. He says it's fueled from a tree, a blessed olive tree. Mind-blowing again. A blessed olive tree. Trees are very important in the Quran. Trees are really important from a spiritual perspective. Of course, the story of heaven and earth is about a forbidden tree, isn't it? But even beyond that, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reaches the highest heavens and Jibreel alayhi salam can't go any further, what's there? Of all things, could have been a mountain, could have been a rock, could have been a ceiling. What's there? Sidratul Muntaha. There's a tree there. Like Allah really loves the analogy of the tree, and there's something very spiritual about a tree. The most valuable thing a believer carries in their heart is La ilaha illallah. وَمَثُلُ كَلِمَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ كَشَجَرَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ أَصْلُهَا ثَابِتٌ وَفَرْعُهَا فِي السَّمَاءِ. The example of a good word, La ilaha illallah, is a good pure tree whose roots are deep and the branches go into the sky. Allah describes Iman itself with a tree whose roots are deep. Now Allah is saying that this Iman I have inside, this Iman that you have inside, is being fueled. The analogy is it's like it's being fueled from a tree that is blessed. And blessed means it keeps on giving and giving and giving. Blessed trees were an expression for they produce more olives than were expected. That's mubarakah. يعني فوق التوقع. Okay, so it's above expectation that it keeps on giving and giving. Okay? But then he adds that it's an olive tree. What two prophets did I make reference to? Musa alayhi salam, the law. Isa alayhi salam, the spirituality. Isa alayhi salam spoke on the Mount of Olives. And that region of the Levant is known for its olive trees. The olive in the Bible and the olive even in the Quran is almost always a reference in some direct or indirect way to the legacy of Isa alayhi salam. Even in Surah At-Tin, وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَطُورِ سِينِينَ. Notice الزيتون طور سينين. زيتون عيسى طور سينين موسى. وهذا البلد الأمين إبراهيم and Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم. Right? So there's again a reference to Isa alayhi salam. Well, now why is that important? Because Isa alayhi salam is a kalima from Allah. Is the height of spirituality. He's, بِكَلِمَةٍ مِّنْهُ. And what's the ruh? It's the amr of Allah. إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَن يَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونُ. The ruh itself is also a kalima from Allah. Right? So the source of it all is being compared to this blessed olive tree, the sacred land, a fertile land. And then he makes this reference to help us appreciate something sacred about this tree, something natural and beautiful about this tree. But then he adds about this tree, لا شرقية ولا غربية. It's neither eastern nor western. What does that mean? It actually means that if you have, for example, a forest, and there's a bunch of trees, and on the eastern end, there's a tree. On the eastern end. When the sun rises on the east, it gets light. And when the sun is on top, it gets light on top. But when the sun is setting, does it get any light? No, it only gets light on the east side because it's on the eastern end. If it's on the western end, the sun rises, does it get any light? No, the sun is on top, it gets some light. When the sun is setting, it gets light. If there's a tree by itself with no other tree around, in the middle of the desert, on the top of a mountain by itself, the sun rises, it is exposed to the light. The sun is at its top, it's exposed to the light. The sun is setting, it's exposed. The entire time it is baking perfectly in the light of the sun. And those trees that get light from all sides, the photosynthesis is perfect. The exposure to the light is perfect. Those trees are going to produce the most perfect olives for the most perfect oil that's going to be created. You understand? And this is a reference to a ruh, the source, the divine source, which was in the constant presence of Allah. We're fueled by something that comes from Allah. And we ourselves were like a tree in the presence of Allah that was constantly being given light by Allah Himself. We were in the company of Allah. We spoke with Allah in the Quran. We spoke with Allah in Surah Al-A'raf, each one of us. أَلَسْتُ بِرَبِّكُمْ قَالُوا بَلَا شَهِدْنَا. We spoke with Allah, And there are other references in Surah Al-A'raf. Even in the creation story, I argue we were witnessing the whole showdown between Adam alayhi salam and Iblis. And we were there watching. We were exposed to Allah. We met with Allah. And when Adam alayhi salam was introduced, Allah introduced Adam alayhi salam to all of his children. Obviously, we were in the presence of Adam alayhi salam and in the presence of Allah. So we were exposed to the ultimate light. And so our source is this divine tree, this heavenly tree that's constantly exposed to the light, and therefore it produces the most solid, the most refined oil. La sharqiyatin wa la gharbiyya. It's neither on the eastern end nor on the western end, but it has other implications. The east and west are also a reference to different societies, right? The mushrikun were affiliated with the Kaaba. The Jews were affiliated with Jerusalem. Right? Allah says, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ He says, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبُ فَأَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. Allah owns the east and the west. Wherever you turn, you'll find Allah's face. You'll find Allah's face. In other words, societies, over time, they develop cultural biases. So somebody can have faith, but that faith is mixed with tradition and culture and politics and personal agendas, and it's contaminated. It's got a little bit of the East and a little bit of the West. It's got something from here, something from there. It gets, muddled. And Allah is describing the source of this tree is not some heritage, human heritage. It's not something Eastern, it's not something Western. It's something more pure than that. لا شرقية ولا غربية. So now this pure oil is filled inside of this lamp, and Allah says, يَكَادُ زَيْتُهَا يُضِيءُ. It's light. The lamp is, imagine this pure oil is being poured in, right? And the oil is so slick and so clear and so glistening that as you're pouring it, it looks like it itself is lit up. That's how shiny it is. But is it lit up yet? No. وَلَوْ لَمْ تَمْسَسْهُ نَارٌ. Even though fire hasn't touched it yet. Fire hasn't even touched it, but it's like it's looking for the fire. You know pure petroleum or gasoline, right? It's over here and you've got a fire over here. What does the petroleum do? It jumps towards the fire. Like the more pure your fuel source is, the more flammable it is. It's actually looking for the flame. When a human being has the light of Allah inside them, even if they were Hindu in a Hindu family, but they decided to preserve their goodness inside, and they said, La sharqiyya wa la gharbiyya. They're not going to put, something inside them is looking for something. They're looking, and like there's lots of Salman al-Farisis in the world. And they're looking, they're like, something's missing. I need to understand what this is. There's something inside me and I can't fill that void. I'm going to take a yoga class and I'm going to ohm my way into this. And they can't find it. And they go to sit with some Buddhists. And then they go sit with some shamans in the West Indies. And then they go end up in some Hindu temple and they paint their face. And they try all kinds of spiritual dances around fires and they try all of it. And they're like, I can't. Something's missing. Then they end up in a Catholic church, then they end up in a Presbyterian church, then they try some devil worship, they try everything. Then they're like, let me just try mindful exercises, let me just go towards Nietzsche and Freud, and let me go towards Skinner, let me find something that makes me whole. And then, after all of those exercises, the one thing they won't consider is Islam, right? But the moment they start hearing about Islam, they feel I don't want to go here. Well, it's pulling them. I don't want to go here. It's pulling them. Right? It's like something in them wants to be lit up by this. يَكَادُ زَيْتُهَا يُضِيءُ وَلَوْ لَمْ تَمْسَسْهُ نَارٌ. وَلَوْ لَمْ تَمْسَسْهُ نَارٌ. This isn't just a description of a believer. I would argue this is actually even a description of every human being. Every human being that decides to preserve the goodness Allah gave them, that He endowed them with to begin with. The pure lamp that Allah put inside every one of us. When a human being tries to connect back with that, even if it got dirty over time, they try to clean it up a little bit. The moment they clean it up a little bit, it starts getting refueled. And when it gets refueled, it wants to catch fire. It wants to catch the light. But the light, I told you, the light has to come from outside, right? It's not your own. It has to come from outside. Now go back to the beginning of the parable. The beginning of the parable was not the lamp light. What was the beginning of the parable? Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. This light, this potential light, can only ignite, truly ignite, when it meets external light. And that external light comes from the revelation of Allah. That's why the Quran is described, I was telling you yesterday, the Quran is described as Nur. فَآمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَالنُّورِ الَّذِي أَنزَلْنَا. Believe in Allah, believe in His Messenger, believe in the light that we sent down. So this light comes down, and this potential light is inside the heart, and they meet each other, and there's a spark, and it just lights up. And Allah describes the light inside of a human being and the light of Allah's revelation meeting each other. The two lights are now meeting each other. And how does He describe it? Nurun ala nur. Light on top of light. Light on top of light. A light that I already had and that got completed with the light that Allah gave. Subhanallah. The brilliance of it all, the beauty of it all. Nurun ala nur. And this, when a believer connects with the word of Allah, with the light of Allah, like I told you, you can have a lot of oil, but that doesn't mean nurun ala nur has happened. You have to feel something illuminate inside you. Something has to light up inside you and say, this is it. This is not only does the lamp on the inside, is when the lamp gives light, right? The brightest part of the lamp is actually inside the lamp. Everything else is getting light, but it's getting much less light. What's getting the main light? The lamp itself. The believer may be concerned with giving da'wah, but when they truly have iman, the first recipient of that da'wah is who? Themselves, and then they truly fulfill al-ina'u bima fihi yandah. A container pours out what it contains. It's because you're so filled with natural, beautiful light that you're able to spread it out. And now that, by the way, the stronger the flame, the more powerful the light. If that light is actually the word of Allah itself, how powerful will be the light of the believer that spreads? Nurun ala nur. Look at the history of our religion. These handful of people in the Arabian desert that nobody knew or cared about. Right? They didn't have big buildings, they didn't have castles, they didn't have massive highways, right? They didn't have oil yet. There was nothing there. The Romans didn't care about it, the Persians didn't care about it. No other empire cared. It was just a trade route, that's all it was. But nobody cared. Let them herd their camels and their sheep. It's fine. They have a little well near Mecca, who cares? Abraha tried to make a business scheme, didn't work out, but nobody else came and said, you know what, Abraha failed, I'll succeed. Nah, I don't want to invest that much elephant food. Forget it. I don't want to leave it alone. Leave this place alone. Let this place remain in the dark. Let it remain in the dark. From the worldly perspective, the darkest place in the world, arguably, in that region was what? Hijaz. And the Quran comes, and from a spiritual perspective, everything else is dark, and the only place that has light is this place, and these hearts of these Sahaba have light inside them, and Allah illuminates their hearts, and these lights start going out, and pretty soon the entire world starts getting lit up by the light of Islam. يَهْدِ اللَّهُ لِنُورِهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. Allah guides to His light whoever He wants. Allah guides to His revelation whoever He wants. Allah guides to the light that He put inside. So there's a light inside me, but I have to be guided to even seek that light inside me, and then from that light inside me, I'll seek the light outside, which is the revelation. Whoever He wants, He will guide them all the way to it. Li nurihi is not ila nurihi. Ila nurihi means in its direction. But li nurihi means all the way to it. Allah will guide whoever He wants and whoever truly wants all the way to His own light. وَيَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالَ لِلنَّاسِ. And then, at the end of it all, Allah says, and Allah gives examples for all people. لِلنَّاسِ. This end of this ayah teaches us a few things. It teaches us, first of all, this wasn't just a description of a believer's heart. Everybody has a lamp, and everybody has the opportunity to clean it up and to fill it with the oil and light it up. It's an invitation. This example is an invitation to all of humanity. And it's so beautiful that Allah did that in the Madani Quran. The Meccan Quran is about da'wah. The Meccan Quran, the audiences are non-Muslims. The Madani Quran, from the very beginning, is actually for the Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Right? And even in this surah, over and over again, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Suratun anzalnaha wa faradnaha. We sent down the surah and we made it a mandate. A mandate for who? Believers. For believers. But you know what happens when believers become too invested within each other? They start thinking this Islam is for who? It's for us. Us Muslims, our community, our masjids, our center, our organizations, our civil rights, us, them. وَيَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالَ لِلنَّاسِ. In the middle of a surah that's talking about Muslim rules, Muslim family life, Muslim internal problems, Muslim hypocrisy. In the middle of all of that, Allah says, وَيَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالَ لِلنَّاسِ. So we don't forget that as much as we care about the internal, this religion is like a lamp. Our entire religion is like a lamp, and the lamp's light is not meant to stay within. The lamp's light is meant to go outside. وَيَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالَ لِلنَّاسِ. But then Allah ends this ayah with وَاللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٍ. And Allah is knowledgeable of all things. Allah knows everything. Why would Allah say that at the end? Let me help you understand this very simply. Let's imagine a PhD in like neuroscience. Yeah? And he comes to the masjid and says, I'm going to tell you guys something about neuroscience. If he starts talking the way he talks to his other PhD friends, are you going to understand anything? No, miskin. So he's going to say, let me give you an example. Imagine your brain is this bottle. And the neuron, the synaptic, I don't know nothing about it, I'm making this up, is this cap. And you're like, okay, I'm following along. This makes sense. When he's giving you these visual aids, and he's got this little PowerPoint presentation, and who is he doing that for? Himself or you? He's doing that for you. Because he already knows this stuff. He just wants to say this in a way that you will understand. What's the purpose of an example? The teacher doesn't give an example for his own benefit. The teacher gives an example for the student's benefit. Allah is saying the reality of what is inside you, and the reality of the light of revelation, and the reality of how these two lights meet is so complex, is so intricate, it's so powerful, that if I talked about it directly, none of you will understand it. قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Knowledge, when they ask you about the soul, the ruh, tell them it is from the special command of my master, and you were not given knowledge except very little. You cannot understand what the ruh really is. So, to give you some idea of how Iman works, the best that can be done for you is what? مَثَلُ نُورِهِ كَمِشْكَاتٍ فِيهَا. The example of his light is something like a lamp. And by the way, mathal and ka together makes it like, it's not exactly, but this is the closest you can get. The reality of this is far more involved than you can handle. But Allah gives examples. يَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالِ لِلنَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Allah knows everything. Allah is doing that for you. Why is he talking about a lamp? Why doesn't he talk about spirituality? Why doesn't he philosophize with us? Why doesn't he use big words like professors do? Why is he telling us about oil and wicker and all? Because you can't handle it. This is for you. Wallahu bi kulli shay'in alim. The last bit I'll share with you here is, why did Allah use al-amthal, the plural? Allah could have said, وَيَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ هَذَا الْمَثَلِ لِلنَّاسِ. Allah is giving this example, because this is one example for people. But it's as if Allah is telling us, not just about all examples, but even within this example, Allahu nuru samawati wal ard was a profound example. Mathalu nurihi ka mishkat by itself is a profound example. Mishkatun fiha misbah is itself another example. Al-misbahu fi zujaja is another example. Az-zujaja ka'annaha kawkabun durri is another example. Yuqadu min shajaratin mubarakatin zaytuna is another example. La sharqiyatin wa la gharbiyya is another example. Yakadu zaytuha yudhi وَلَوْ لَمْ تَمْسَسْهُ نَارٌ is another example. And then نُورٌ عَلَى نُور is like, it's not one example. It's each one of them is profound lessons by themselves, all compiled together just to give us an appreciation of the light that Allah has endowed us with and the light that He has gifted us with when He revealed this Qur'an to us. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us a newfound love of the light of Allah. And I pray that Allah illuminates all of our hearts genuinely and continues to illuminate our hearts with the light of the Qur'an. The advice I leave myself with and all of you with is, Allah did allude to the fact here that the lamp has to be continuously fueled. So we have to have a continuous relationship with Allah's book. We need it. We need that. The recitation of it, the memorization of it, the contemplation of it, the learning of it. There are multiple facets of our relationship with the Qur'an. We have to nurture all of them. Look at the process. Oh man, the most beautiful thing I didn't even tell you. Oh my God. It just came in my head. Sorry, 5 minutes. I apologize. Where did the lamp, you're in the room, you saw light, you say, where did it come from? And you turn back and you see a niche. You go a little closer. What do you notice inside the niche? A lamp. Fiha misbah. Then you go a little closer. You notice it's a very pristine glass. Al-misbahu fi zujaja. Then you start staring inside the glass and you notice, it's extremely shiny, kawkabun durri, but inside it is a very pure kind of oil. What is the camera doing? It's zooming, 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 zooming. And then you start wondering, where did this oil come from? And you find out the oil came from a tree. The tree that is neither eastern or west. Because, by the way, you're looking for the source, right? You were in the room. Where's the source of the light? The niche. What's the source of the light in the niche? The lamp, the glass, the oil, the tree, the olive. The light hits it from all day long. In other words, this would not have been possible without the tree. And the tree would not have been possible without the sun. So the olive would never have given me the oil, and I would have never had this lamp had it not been for the sun, which takes me back to the original parable, Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. In other words, this lamp is actually a manifestation of a gift given from the ultimate light source, which isn't even from this earth. So even though this is sitting inside the house, it's actually directly connected to the sun. It's directly connected to the sun. The believer has goodness, a human being has goodness inside them, and that goodness inside them is directly connected to Allah, and therefore directly connected to the word of Allah. So when the believer hears the word of Allah, particularly Christians, Allah highlighted Christians. Allah said when Christians come and listen to the Quran, because they keep their hearts pure. Allah describes their misguidance also, their misinterpretation also, but He also describes that they try to keep their hearts pure. He gives them that credit. So with that pure heart, they come and they want to listen to the word of Allah. What does Allah say? تَرَى أَعْيُنَهُمْ تَفِيضُ مِنَ الدَّمْعِ. You will see that their eyes start rolling with tears. They're just sitting and they're just... Because the nur hit the nur and the light explodes, and when the light explodes, the tears start rolling out. You know, this is how everything comes back full circle in this parable. Everything connects again in this parable. So alhamdulillah, we've completed the 35th ayah, and inshallah ta'ala, tomorrow we're going to do the 36th to the 38th ayah, which will complete this portion of the parable, and then we'll go to the parables of darkness, because these were the parables of light. And then after that, in a couple of days, we're going to get to the parables of darkness. May Allah Azza wa Jal preserve all of our light. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.